Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, returning after a week off from Zelda last week. And I'm joined not by Dak or Doom, but by my pal Gooey Fame. Goo, what is up? It was a big week for us Zelda folk last week, was it not?
Yeah. You took a week off. I'm still playing this thing.
Yeah,
we gotta go be playing that right now.
I know. So on Thursday. Let me tell you a story really quickly. On Thursday, okay, I came home from work. It was like a long, stressful day. And then I had to get my car taken in to get some work done. I told you a couple weeks ago I had some issues, and they're still working on it. So I had to take my car in. And then I had to go to my sister, who's having twins, her gender reveal party on a Thursday night for some reason. So I got back home. It's like 10 o'clock, and I'm like, I have not played Zelda at all today. And I was so angry at like everything. That's probably not healthy.
No, definitely not.
No.
I'm like starting to feel like, I was like, I need to like maybe slow down on this or something. But yeah, it's all I want to do right now is play the game.
I know, and like Sam was like, "It's so nice. We should go outside. Like, do you want to go for a bike ride?" And I was like, "No, I want to play Zelda in my basement in whatever when it's plus 30." So no, it's been really fun. Tears of the Kingdom is it's amazing so far. Like it's more Breath of the Wild, but it's not like that's a bad thing. And in fact, it's like it's like an expansion of Breath of the Wild almost, or like Breath of the Wild maybe as it should have been in some weird ways. It's amazing. It's super fun. So yeah.
Yeah, we were talking beforehand about how similar it feels, and for me the big difference maker is that another thing we were talking about is that there's so many side quests, and the world, like the way the world develops, and they really improve the world of the game. And so I never really had a problem with like the big departure the Breath of the Wild took, like compared to some other Zelda fans or whatever, but
right.
The thing that I felt like it lacked a little bit was like filling out the world a little bit more. And now I'm just like, I just love it. I love doing all the side quests. I know, I love like just hanging out in this game and in this world and rolling Koroks down hills and crap like that. I'm so into it. I don't know. We'll see if I'm still like, part of me still feels like, maybe that feeling out, it'll run out of gas or something, but
I think it's got a lot in the tank before it runs out of gas.
It does, yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. So very fun. I'm sure a lot of our listeners here have also been enjoying Zelda. If you haven't, and you had some concerns that maybe this was just more Breath of the Wild, I don't know that I could tell you that you were wrong, but I think like more Breath of the Wild is not a bad thing whatsoever. So I would check it out. It's very, very fun. And I wanted to give a special shout out to our man Doominal Crossing, who is not here this week, but our guy is graduating with honors this week. And in fact, maybe as we speak, like I want to say his thing was on Saturday. So he's gonna be graduated and all grown up. So shout out to you, Doom, and congrats, buddy. Well earned.
Congrats.
Yeah. Okay. So Goo, I am stoked actually to be recording this episode because we had originally done our last Alien review towards the tail end of 2022, and of course we did Alien 3, which was kind of like Ripley's last hurrah in a sense, but not really. And we had planned to continue our saga, continue our journey into this Alien franchise, and then Metroid Prime Remastered came out, kind of delayed everything a little bit there, but we're finally back now, and we're here to finish Ripley's story. This is it for Ripley. This is her last ride. So lots of really like great things. I was telling you before we started, like, maybe I've never seen this. I thought I had seen it when I was like very young, like maybe like 12, 13 or something like that. But like I was watching this movie and I was just like, I don't really remember that. I don't really remember that. I don't really remember this. I did remember the end, of course, but I was like, it was almost like watching a new movie for me for the first time. And maybe it was, I don't know, but I came away with a takeaway that I think I want to share in a little bit here. But in a lot of ways, to me, this was the most Metroid-y alien film, except for like maybe the first, I guess. But like I picked up on like a bunch of different Metroid things in this game, or I'm sorry, in this movie that I wanted to talk about. But I mean, just generally speaking, overall thoughts on Alien Resurrection. It's considered the worst of the three for sure. Or I'm sorry, the worst of the four. I think by most people. I would be curious to see what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, probably. I feel like because we watched like the assembly cut of the third one, and there's some like something about the third one that does feel like incomplete or something. Maybe that's just knowing too much about how it was made. Um but I feel like overall it works better for me. Whereas this one, like I feel like the last time I watched it like a year ago, I was like, this is horrible. And then watching it this time, I was like, oh, I can appreciate some elements of this, but like overall it doesn't work for me as well. I can't quite say what it is though.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and say my Metroid comparison because
Okay.
I felt the same, and I want to preface this with like, so this movie, I think like the core premise is cool. Like I think it's a cool idea, like the
Mm.
original idea of the movie, and like there's enough like kind of cool things in here that makes me not like I didn't hate the movie at all, but like it also for me it was definitely the weakest of the four, and it was the most strange of the four in like tone. It seemed like a
Mhm.
very weird kind of tone, and I kept thinking to myself, I was like, this reminds me of a Metroid game, and that Metroid game is Other M. It really
Oh, okay.
it really reminds me of Metroid Other M because like there's a lot of like similar themes and stuff like that where like obviously the theme of motherhood is ran through almost the entire film franchise, but like it's very very prevalent in this movie, even more so I would say than the last couple ones. Which kind of reminds me of Samus kind of in Metroid Other M lamenting almost like a same kind of predicament, like her baby, which was the baby Metroid, and like it's a quote unquote monster, and like you kind of have a similar thing in this movie. I feel like the squad that they have assembled, like with their kind of dorky dialogue and weird lines, and just like it's kind of all
Mhm.
over the place, is like very reminiscent to me of Metroid Other M. The way that there's just like stuff in this movie that doesn't, it's not that it doesn't pay off, but it's just weird. It's got a weird vibe to it, and I feel like that vibe, like it just really reminded me of Metroid Other M, for better or
Mhm.
for mostly for worse. So I really came away thinking that this was like very very Other M esque. Have you've
Okay.
probably never played that game, have you, Goo?
No, no. I remember. Yeah, I remember like the advertisements and stuff, and like being kind of excited about it because I hadn't played a lot of Metroid. But I was like, "Oh, new Metroid game!" And then I remember it came out and it like bombed, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I won't
Hmm.
try it." Um. So yeah, sorry.
It it bombed. Well, like it did bomb. I mean, it was a weird game to play, first of all, but like the story was also very weird. And another thing that really reminded me of Other M in this movie was like Other M was like a very weird depiction of Samus, like not
Okay.
consistent with other depictions of her. And I wouldn't quite go so as far as to say that like Ripley wasn't consistent with like other versions of her, but and
Well,
she's clearly like she's a clone in this movie, so she shouldn't be. But like Ripley was off, and I wasn't able to quite put my finger on it. And I don't know if you felt that way.
so there. That's one of the things that I kind of like about it. I don't know how much this was intended, but it sort of feels like each like people talk about all the time how people didn't like what happens with Newt, from 2 to 3.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about in each one, like Ripley goes through this thing, survives, and then like is always forced to like re-experience like this traumatic event. Like there's never going to be a happy ending. It's kind of grim when you start to take stock of uh her life and her character's arc.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last one, she heroic sacrifice, like, you know, it's like this amazing sacrifice, the end of her, but it's another sequel and we got to bring her back.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, here's the way you can do it. It's a, you know, it's whatever, that's cool, but it almost feels like there's something off about her, and they talk about how she's kind of a monster. It's like it's almost like meta to me, of like the idea of like we have to keep resurrecting you until you're like this, and like, you know, this character and I'm not saying like the character keeps having to like re-experience these things until at some point like she almost becomes like, you know, like so much of her character is informed by like all this horrific stuff she has to experience and
Mm.
re-experience, to this point where she's like completely, she's like been completely morphed into something else. And it kind of reminded me, I think you might see this, is this feels like maybe it was part of the inspiration or something picked up along the way for the Alice character in the Resident Evil series,
Yeah,
where it's
I
just
could see
like,
that connection.
where it's like she's cloned, superhuman, killing off different versions of herself to the point where she's like a super weapon or whatever. Like that's what I got from Ripley in this.
Like this Ripley was definitely like the most like superhero-esque version of Ripley, like for sure. And actually I thought I was gonna hate that, but I don't quite, because I think the explanation with like the cloning is like good enough for it. And I do think that like there's only like so many times like an average human could probably escape these xenomorphs. So
Well,
I
it
didn't hate
just,
that.
it gives her character though too. Like what's off about her, and I don't know if they do fully a good job of getting it across, other than when they outright say it. But like, she's sort of like not cynical. I don't know what the right word is, but like she doesn't really have like
I think it is cynical. Yeah, because like
she
there's
doesn't have
multiple
feelings
times where
towards any of them. You know.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's like a cool line where she's just like, "You're all gonna die. It's inevitable." Like she sounds like Thanos when she says that, and I kind of thought, I was like, this would be really.
I thought the Red Queen.
Yeah, I was like, this would be really engaging if like Ripley was like kind of quasi a bad guy, and like you kind of have like the new heroine that can stand up to her there in Winona Ryder and her character. And I thought maybe that's where they were going with it, and they didn't really get there, unfortunately. But I thought that would have been really cool and engaging. But I think the thing was, for me with Ripley, that just felt off, is it was like, we've cloned you. They kind of gave like some fakakta reason for her to like have her memories back because of like genetic memory of like the xenomorph, and I was like, okay,
Sure.
like whatever. But it did. I think for me, maybe I would have liked to have seen more of like a I don't even know how to put this, like it was Ripley, but this, I feel like this should have been like a very different Ripley, like not immediately like the same kind of Ripley, like maybe have those other elements, like when she started off, like, and she's just like, you're all dead, like it's inevitable. I was like, this is kind of cool, like this is a different, but then she just slid into like her familiar heroic role, which I mean, like we love her in, and she's amazing.
Mhm.
But I don't know, I was kind of like, maybe that's what I thought was a little bit off about Ripley.
I feel like she wasn't all, because they kept being like, oh, like, can we even trust her? You know, they were trying to be
Yeah.
like, she's not fully human or whatever, you know, but it didn't necessarily always work, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of weird parts in there.
Hmm.
So before we get into the movie itself, I also want to talk about some other Metroid related instances that I kind of felt. And Goo, I don't know, have you had a chance yet to play Metroid Fusion?
No, I mean, so you mentioned earlier, actually, I wanted to shout out, I'm happy that they got the Metroid Prime remake on Switch. I mentioned the last time I was on that I finished Super Metroid,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, you know, right now there's Tears of the Kingdom
Yeah.
and all that, but I want to eventually get to that Prime remake. I'm so excited, and then Metroid Fusion as well on NSO. I'm gonna get to as well. I'm pretty pumped to play both those games.
Yeah, so I think first of all, congrats on finishing Super Metroid, and
Wonderful game.
yes, amazing. And second of all, I think that there's a lot of like very heavy Metroid Fusion elements in this as well. And obviously, like this came out before Metroid Fusion, but like in Metroid Fusion, you kind of have a similar kind of scenario where the Galactic Federation, who is almost like a stand-in for Weyland Yutani, even though Weyland Yutani is not in this movie, but like it's clearly like some kind of evil corporation. I think they're the military or whatever in this movie, but like the Galactic Federation is engaging in these experiments to breed and control Metroids, which only Samus knows is like incredibly futile because you can't there's just no way that you can control them, and during the course of Metroid Fusion, you kind of learn about the X parasite, and the Galactic Federation wants to control that as well, and that's where Samus draws the line. She's like, "This is insanity! Like you'll never control these creatures; they're going to wipe you out." Which I think is a quite obvious parallel to this movie, where they have like these creepy xenomorph breeding rooms where they've got these poor blokes that have been kidnapped and impregnated with the facehuggers, and like they're breeding xenomorphs, which
I love the shot of all their heads.
Oh my
all the
god,
heads was, yeah, that was really cool. I thought.
Oh, there's some really cool shots in this movie, by the way, like really cool that I want to talk about. But like that to me, I was like, that's very Metroid Fusion-esque, where like there's this this nefarious plot kind of going on that is going to backfire, but it's happening anyways. So very very strong parallels there as well. And there was a point in the movie too where I thought that they might go the Metroid 2 Return of Samus road, because they were like, how many xenomorphs are there? And they're like, there's 12. And I was like, yes, we're going to get them hunting down like 12 xenomorphs. And then like, and then when there's one left, it's going to go back up to 10 because the queen's given birth to all these new xenomorphs.
Oh my God.
Which we didn't go there, but I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I also thought maybe we talk about this in other episodes, but it stuck out to me even more here, where doesn't Samus like it gets like the Metroid DNA or something DNA, right?
Yeah, at
like
the end of Metroid Dread.
You're right, yeah. That I think we talked about that in the other episodes, but that really sort of parallel crossed over to me here because of like the whole like she's a clone, and I don't know. Yeah, it stuck out to me.
It stuck out to me as well. Like and like I said, like there are very, very overt themes of like motherhood here that run throughout the whole movie, and like they literally take the queen, because Ripley, if you remember at the end of Alien 3, was housing a queen xenomorph inside of her, and that's when she threw herself into the lava. So they took the queen out of her, so this queen is like her baby, and there's another wild scene which we'll get to in a bit. But like it's very Metroid is a little bit more subtle in I guess having the dread suit wasn't that subtle with the mixing of like the DNA and stuff like that, but this was just like very very on the nose about it. Not in a bad way either, just that's what they decided to do.
I feel like it's taking certain themes from the other movies and just taking them to their most like extreme. Like some Alien has always been nasty from the beginning, but this is like they're like really getting pretty gnarly in this one.
There's some good body horror in this movie for sure. Looks far out. Okay, well, so that's all the Metroid connections that I noticed in this. And to be honest with you guys, I wasn't expecting as much like connective tissue to the Metroid series anymore. I knew the first two movies had a lot. I don't think that when we did Alien 3, it wasn't like there was a ton of those same kind of themes that we'd seen in Metroid games. So I was expecting that to continue with this, but I did really see a lot of like Other M specifically in this movie, and just kind of the way that it's kind of weird and goofy and dorky and just like the premise is cool, but like the execution isn't always there. Maybe that's just like me inferring, but like it did give me Other M kind of vibes. So take that for what you will if you decide to watch this or not. And I think you should. Like, I think it's worth watching. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this movie itself. So first of all, the movie is set 200 years in the future. So it's set 200 years after the events of Alien 3. Ripley is not in this movie because Ripley is dead, but Ripley 8, who is our Ripley in this movie, is a clone, the 8th clone, as the name suggests. And she's like the perfect Ripley, basically. She has like all the memories, she has like the physical strength and attributes, she has, she's not like deformed or anything like that, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Good at basketball.
She's good at basketball. Oh man, she's great at basketball. She made Ron Perlman look like a goof. So yeah, like they kind of hit the home run, and they were able to get the queen out of her and actually incubate it and get it to maturity. So kind of a cool scenario here and setup for them. And we in fact learn. I loved this line, man. It's not Weyland-Yutani that's pulling the strings. It's some military operation because Weyland-Yutani was bought out by Walmart.
Yeah. That was a good detail. Yeah.
I was like, man, just give us Weyland-Yutani, man. Like, come on. Like, bought out by Walmart, really?
Well, then they had this though was just like the government or whatever.
The United Systems Military, USM.
And that's one thing that's like, so in the other ones you have sort of a dynamic. You always have like the power dynamics or like who's in control of the situation. And it'll be like Ripley, or the military, or the corporation that's overseeing it because they kind of have her consulting.
Yeah.
And in this it's more of like you have the government, Ripley, and then like these like pirates or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's another Metroid connection. We've got some space pirates.
Yeah.
And for what, like, I think it's just in this beginning portion here of how they set up the whole like what's going on here. That like it's one where I'm just really I don't get like kind of as hooked on that dynamic as much as I do in really any of the other three movies. The pirates show up and they're cursing at the military and arguing, and it's fun. It's a little funny, but I'm like, it's almost like, yeah, I really don't care that much.
I agree. Like, I do think that this loses something by not having like Weyland-Yutani or like some kind of analogy for like a corporation that places value on this like extremely dangerous commodity over like human life, because I think that was like a big driver of like the first three Alien movies for sure, where it was just kind of like it was almost like an analogy for like corporate greed in a sense. And like I guess you could kind of make the case it's like government greed or military greed in this one, which are probably as fair or prevalent, but I do think it kind of does lose a little something by not having Weyland-Yutani.
I feel like, and the movie's not that long too, so maybe it is like a decent portion of the movie, but I feel like when shit really starts to hit the fan, like most of like it's like mostly Ripley and then like the pirates, and like most of the military guys kind of get taken care of early on, and you don't really have as much of that dynamic, other than the fact they do kind of introduce the little twist with Winona Ryder's character, which kind of adds then a whole new element to it. But I don't know, it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't have me as locked in with what's going on, like, oh, what's gonna happen when these two butt heads or whatever.
Yeah, I would also say too that like I thought that the group of mercenaries or pirates was like, I mean, it's your typical cast of like kind of stock characters that Alien gives you, and like they're kind of there to be eaten by the monsters. But I would say to that, like, I was a little bit disappointed with like the deaths or maybe the lack thereof in this movie. Like, a lot of people made it to the finish line, and the people that didn't, I don't think there was like a really awesome. I take that back. There was one really awesome death scene, But like there wasn't
There's
like
a few that
there
I
wasn't like a
like.
ton, I don't think. And I think I had that same complaint in Alien 3, didn't I? Maybe it was
Maybe I
Aliens,
actually
one of them.
I feel like in it was probably Alien 3. But I feel like in this one it it's just more gnarly at times than Alien 3 that I was like it kind of satisfied some of the bloodlust that I had watching it. I was like, oof, you know.
I,
There was a few that I can think of.
I can only think of one.
Okay,
Okay, I can think of
what's
two,
yours?
but we'll get there. I want to save it
Okay,
till we
okay,
actually get there. But yeah, so that's pretty much the premise of the whole movie is like the the USM is cloning Ripley. So Ripley 8 is our hero. 200 years in the future, they're also got a xenomorph breeding experiment going on. They have a queen captive, and they have the aliens captive as well. While at the same time, so what the pirates were doing is they were smuggling over the egg sacs from God, what's the planet that the alien was originally found on, like LV-486 or something like that.
It's something like that. Yeah.
I feel like a schmo for not knowing that. Anyways, so they're smuggling them over from the planet. So they're bringing them the egg sacs, which I was like, should the queen be able to make those? But I guess maybe they wanted more. I don't know.
There's something with a lot of the like how does this work stuff in this. I was like, I don't know. I just kind of
and what they did too is or maybe I got that wrong. Maybe they abducted the humans. So they abducted the humans for the queen's face huggers. That's right. They're a bad group, man. These pirates, they kind of deserve what's coming to them.
Yes. So as a group too, I want to say it's gone further and further each one. Like I feel like one of the themes of each of the movies is like Ripley as a character like being like a woman in these very like masculine situations. Like in the first one, it's not as prominent because they're kind of a working ship, but she's one of only two women there. Then in the second one, like there's still like there's a woman in the Marines, but you know before they're going in, they're doing all their macho,
very machismo environment.
Very machismo.
Yeah.
Then in the third one, they take it even further. It's like this really weird cult of like incel cult or whatever. And then in this one, it's like the nastiest. Like these guys are disgusting.
They really are. Like,
yeah, they're gross. And
one of my critiques is like, there's almost like not a single likable person in this movie, except for maybe Winona Ryder. But like even Ripley sometimes to me, I was like, when she's just like, and not that she wasn't unlikable, but she had, like I said, like I felt like she just felt off. But like, dude, other than Winona, like everyone in here was like a complete scumbag, and I was like, I kind of hope they don't make it. Like,
yeah, I think that's and I think that's supposed to be like a feature of the movie. Like that seems intentional.
Yeah, it must be.
But yeah, like it didn't have anyone quite like what was the one guy with the glasses in the last one? The bald black dude, I think was kind of the leader.
I don't remember. He was awesome.
You had kind of him where you were like sort of rooting for him in some ways, you know what I mean? But you could tell he has like this pretty messed up past, you know.
Yeah.
This it's like, and I like I said, I think same thing with the cloning Ripley. I think it is like the most like cynical or whatever. Like it's kind of the most pessimistic take on all this, where it's like I think it's supposed to be like this is the grossest version. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it does. Yeah, it does make it like there was, like I said, that with the dynamics where it just kind of felt at some point by the end, it really just felt like, Ripley and Winona Ryder versus them, which is what they're going for. But it made it, I don't know, it made it a little less, dynamic when you had like different people vying for power, I guess.
And that was kind of my thing too. Is like I was like, I think very clearly like Winona and Ripley are like the kind of like the moral compass of the, specifically Winona Ryder, her character Call was like the moral compass of the movie, which at the end of the movie, it shows a scene where it's just like Ripley and Winona, and the two of them have made it, but like you also have all these super other scummy guys that also made it as well. So it's, I don't know. I don't think my bloodlust was quite fulfilled. Like I would have liked to see, especially Ron Perlman. Like that guy was so gross. Like he was begging to get his face ripped apart by like
that would have been a fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also like it's not like who cares if they're still alive? You know, why would? I don't know.
We'll never see him again.
They should have killed the most people.
I think so too. Yeah, but they didn't. So there you go. Okay, so obviously things start to go wrong pretty much right away. And oh my god, first of all, I have to go back to the scene where they were explaining how like Ripley has all her memories and stuff like that, and like the guy in charge, the general or whatever, he was such a goober. Like just with his little salutes and just like he was so ridiculous.
I love this actor. He was awesome. Yeah. That was one key thing. I feel like he should have been one of the people, not to survive, but like
make it longer.
I feel like because then you just had one of the other doctors who was like kind of from that base, and I feel like he was interesting, but I feel like the general would have added to the dynamic. But it also fits. I feel like thematically it reminds me of in Aliens, where it's like they spend all this time doing all this macho bravado, but then they like instantly get torn apart. You know what I mean? And I feel like the general biting it totally fits that. Where this whole time he's just this hard dickhead. You know, like
this dude. Just the scene where he was like, where they were explaining to him like Ripley's got all her memories. He was so like. He was just being such a goof. It was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Actually, it was just so over the top. And actually, one of the guys he was talking to is a favorite of ours, and I know a favorite of yours, Dr. Jonathan Giedman, who was played by Brad Dourif, who he was awesome. He was awesome in this movie.
He's always such a good, like, slimy... I mean, the end part with him is so awesome.
I saw him show up, and I didn't know he was in this movie, and I was like, I hope that he has like a really cool role, and I was not disappointed because I knew you'd be on the lookout for what he was doing. He was awesome.
So he was the best. He's literally the best casting in the whole movie.
Yeah,
like he fits his role to a T. That's another one. It's like he should have been in it more.
I know
his part was cool, but
his part was great. And so like his character, he's just a minor character. He's a scientist that's working on the xenomorph experiment, but he like falls in love with the xenomorph and he starts to like deify them, and he gets kind of taken away pretty early on in the movie, and at the later portions, he's just like in his little cocoon, like, wow, great job, Queen.
Just a gnat, and he's like loving it.
Yeah.
He's loving it.
The thing bites his head, and he's like, "Great, yeah, good stuff."
I love that character exists in multiple Alien movies, like the one who's like really into it.
Yeah. I thought
usually it's like a robot or something, but he's just a freak.
Yeah,
you know what?
If you need a good freak, you got to call Brad Dourif for that. You did.
My quick pitch is that when all the stuff starts to break out, they should have just initially just killed all of the bounty hunters but Ron Perlman. Like, no offense to them, but I feel like that, like when in Aliens where like a ton of like there's a moment where a bunch of them get taken out right away, and I would have kept like the general, Brad Dourif, like those characters with Ron Perlman around more, because then you have kind of, they're all acting as like their own, they'll have kind of their own motivations, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I would agree. So looking at the cast of mercenaries, I think I would have got rid of almost everyone quickly, except for Ron Perlman and except for the character who was paraplegic. I thought he did add a little something.
Oh,
he was pretty good.
He was awesome. Yeah, I forgot about him. I'm sorry.
Actually, really quick, I want to talk about the main, like the leader of the pirates there for a second. Well, his name was Elgin, and I thought this guy was gonna be like a big player in this movie, but he actually dies like almost right away. And I thought when you saw him that he was kind of positioned to be like the next kind of like leading male character in this movie, similar to Hicks maybe in Aliens, but he's just like such a sleazeball. Like I was not expecting that scene with like him talking about Winona Ryder. I don't know why. I was just like, man, this guy sucks. And and then they have that really weird scene where like him and Winona Ryder are like, I don't know what they're doing, but it's not safe for work, I'll tell you that. And I was like, that's weird too. And then he just died like right away. So he was a really weird character for me in this movie.
So I mean, this is like the sleaziest of the Aliens movies.
Yeah, I
think it still holds that crown, actually.
Oh, definitely.
In terms of not being gross, but sleazy.
Hold on, we haven't seen AVPR yet. I bet you that
That's
might
true.
be. I bet you that could be a contender.
Sleaze.
Yeah. Sidebar. When I was a kid, even actually now, I think I've told you this before, Goo, but like I had the biggest crush on Winona Ryder. I thought she was so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love when
Ryder.
I was like one of my favorite movies as a kid, I had the trifecta of like people I had a crush on, which was April O'Neil in Ninja Turtles,
Of course.
Daisy in the Super Mario Brothers movie, and then Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice.
Okay.
Yeah, I had big mad crushes on all of them when I was,
I think it was Edward Scissorhands for me with Winona Ryder. I just thought, I was like, oh my god, she's so pretty and whatever. So anytime I see Winona Ryder, even today, I'm just like, it's Winona.
I love Winona Ryder. She's awesome. Yeah.
I do too. Yeah, she was great in this movie, by the way, and not everybody was.
Yeah.
But I thought you know what? Maybe I take that back. Actually, I think the acting in this movie was like pretty decent, all things considered.
It's pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, it actually has a great cast.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just a weird script. It's a weird script.
It's a weird script, and I feel like there's a lot of like over directing, if that makes sense. Like just trying to do too much when maybe just focusing on your characters would have been okay, you know?
I did like I felt like some of the, in the direction, some of the like, it did have like a comedic flair to just some of the style that I kind of liked. I was kind of into that. It was also, you know what? It was written by Joss Whedon also, and we know he's a sick little pervert. Yeah. So maybe that might maybe it's like we got the perfect guy to get that across.
Yeah, we give him 2 thumbs down. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually like really loved this next development. So they've got these aliens in this cage, and they can't break out, and they're trying to tame them by blasting them with like this freezing cold. Kind of like James Bond, GoldenEye, like frost stuff going on, and the aliens. There's this amazing scene, man. I was literally waiting to see if they were gonna have subtitles, but like there's this scene where like the aliens start talking to each other, and I was like, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna show us like what they're actually saying? They didn't. But so what they
would have been awesome.
I was like, this would have been incredible.
That would have been not out of bounds for this movie. I think.
Seriously, I was sitting there and I was like, they're gonna do it. I just want to know how he talks. So it's kind of weird because they start fighting each other, and I was like, oh damn. But their plan, which was like, oh like this is so awesome. So there's like 12 of them in this cage, and they kill one of them. So one of them volunteers as tribute and decides to get killed so that his blood, which is acid, can melt them out a pathway. Good stuff.
Which is like, that's another thing too, like about this continuing and going. That was an awesome scene, but like this series continuing on and going on and on. It reminds me a little bit of Jurassic Park, where it's like, why do you keep trying this?
Yes.
Type of thing. Well,
not only that, but like, how do you not know by this point these guys have acid in their blood? Like, surely there must be some kind of plastic that, I don't know, doesn't melt.
I think literally they thought like they're not smart enough to like kill one of them, like do something like that to escape, so as long as we got them captured, we're fine,
Right.
I genuinely think like they were so stupid to believe that would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, like, it seems dumb, but I could also like absolutely see that level of hubris if we found an alien today, right now, I could see that. So maybe it's not as dumb as we think.
Yeah, maybe it's fitting that the general is like one of the first people to bite it, like I
Yeah.
said.
So they're out. The aliens are out. And I was expecting this huge killing spree, which we kind of got. Like a bunch of people are like in escape pods, and one of the aliens gets inside, and like, but you
Yeah,
don't
I
actually
like
see anything.
that.
It was a cool scene, but like the greatest scene was the general just giving his salute and then having his head bitten off. That was great.
He like reaches back and pulls like a little
Yeah,
piece of his brain or something
yeah. I
and
was
looks
like,
at it.
I was
That
just
was
like, what
so
the?
goofy. I loved it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Like, if you were at a theater watching that, maybe it wasn't satisfying. But the way I was watching it last night, I was like, okay, great. There's his brains, cool.
Yeah,
So
I was
yeah,
laughing my ass off.
it was a good scene. So yeah, so we've got the mercenary crew, and they've linked up with Ripley, and they've also linked up with a dude named Ren, who is like the lead scientist of this program, and his bodyguard, who is played by the guy who plays Tuco in Breaking Bad, by the way.
Yes,
Young
you know what?
Tuco.
He's also in he's in Deep Space Nine,
Is
Star
he?
Trek Deep Space Nine. One particular episode, and yeah, just love seeing him.
Yeah,
I don't even know his name, but I love that guy.
yeah, he was. I'm sure I can look it up here, but yeah, I thought he was. I thought he was really good, and it was just kind of cool to see him. Like he was kind of the badass, but like he kind of had a little bit of a face turn actually. Like he eventually was like, I'm not following this doctor anymore. Like he was a good guy.
Mhm.
He was actually one of them where I wouldn't say he was likable because he was pretty nasty to Winona when he found out about the twist. But like I was a little bit sad that like of all the people, like he didn't make it at the end because he was so close to the finish line.
I felt like with him too. I also didn't feel his presence in the movie as much as it should have been. You know.
Yeah, Raymond Cruz is
Yes. Okay.
is his name, and
He's an awesome actor. Yeah.
yeah, like there's a couple of those mercenaries. Like there's another one. His name was Christie, and like he was kind of cool, even though they were doing like some goofy ass like he was doing like the revolver ocelot, like fire his revolver, and like the bullet would bounce off like six different things and hit the target. I was like, okay, come on. Like he was okay too, but like again, he didn't really add like a whole lot. I don't know.
Yeah, as a character, I feel like no, but like yeah, those were funny. What was the last one he did? It was like a big. I don't know. There was a big reflecting bullet shot.
He
that
did.
like,
Well, so first of all, they like somebody has him at gunpoint. Like one of the military guys has him at gunpoint.
that
And
was
like,
weird.
It's like why wouldn't you just shoot? Like these dudes have like mauled your entire crew. Like what do you like shoot him?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just like standing there. He's like I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And he's standing there for so long that this guy's just like okay, well I'm gonna shoot the mirror, deflects off to the pipe, and deflects off to the desk, and like and it hits him right in the back. And I was like okay, cool. Great.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got our motley crew, and they are they're making their way through the ship, and they are trying to get to the escape pod. And I will say, like, I do think that the pacing of like crew members going down could have been more spread out because it felt like there was like a cluster of them that all went at the same time, and then long periods of nothing, and then another cluster, and then like a lot of them, like I said, just kind of made it actually to the finish line. So I would have liked to see a few more, like.
I could see they're like, it feels like they are trying to emulate the Aliens pacing a little bit, where it's like a big explosion of it, and then some more tension building to another big finale or something.
Yeah,
It felt a bit like I don't know. It doesn't work as well in this. I feel like when you don't have these
I agree.
amazing action set pieces that kind of carry it.
Well, I feel like too. The other thing is like in Alien, or Aliens. I'm sorry. Like there's like there is tension because like the threat isn't like I don't know exactly how to say what I'm trying to say, but like in this movie, like the threat's here and it's happening the entire time. Like it's a small confined space where like in Alien, it's kind of like the threat is lying dormant, but it's about to erupt, and like you do have a little bit of quiet before the storm. Whereas this movie is just like it's pretty much just all storm. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, you kind of know, right? And I think that's stated right away by Ripley, which is like, you're all gonna die. You know, like it's like it's here. We're already mid doing it. Where yeah, like you said, in Alien and Aliens, there's that element of like like in Aliens, it's like we're gonna bring you back, and it's sort of this like this horror of like returning to it and seeking this out, and where are they hiding type thing. Where like here, it's like we got them in a cage, and guess what? They got out. Who would have thought? You know.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. It didn't work as well for me, but I really liked this scene that comes up. So they're kind of going along, and Ripley finds room number 7, which houses all of these other like Ripley clone experiments, which are pretty gnarly, pretty wild, and she does in fact find a Ripley clone who is still alive, but like in the worst possible way you could be alive. She's got like a left arm where her right arm should be. She's been like surgically like just she's like a rag doll almost. It's like very horrifying, very very horrifying, and she's all she could say is like kill me, which is like damn. But I like this scene. This is a good scene.
That really played into the whole thing I was saying about like Ripley the character just becoming more like malformed almost over time. Like not just physically, but it kind of represents her character's growth almost of being, you know, repeatedly brought back into these situations.
Yeah.
But then when she says kill me, and she pulls the flamethrower on her, I would have been like, not like that.
It's like, quick.
Or I don't know. That's a horrible way to go.
Well, I mean, like you're probably done in a couple seconds, maybe. It's got to be no worse than sitting there with like feet for arms and whatever else they've done to her. Who knows what.
But that happens to Alice in Resident Evil as well. Like, isn't there like, doesn't she have to like kill off a bunch of the clones or whatever?
I don't remember. I know that all of her clones get killed off somehow. I know that.
Oh, they sacrifice themselves to infiltrate Umbrella.
Yeah, and one of the best scenes in Resident Evil, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't help but think like that is inspired by like, if not this movie, like just Alien as a franchise. I feel like there's some elements of Ripley in that, and I only bring this up because of the Alien vs Predator situation.
Well, you know what? Actually, we skipped over something too with Winona's character. We keep calling her Winona. Her character's name is Call, but whatever.
I can't remember anyone's Ron Perlman.
I have no idea what his name is. And I mean, to be fair, like it's not like there's lots to these characters. Like they're there to die, right? Like, most of them are. But so Winona, when she actually first meets Ripley, she offers to kill her because she assumes that like something is similar is probably happening with her, although she doesn't know that like this Ripley is kind of like the most, I guess, complete or perfected version of Ripley. So she does kind of have some, I don't know what the word is, benevolence. It probably isn't the right word, but like at least good intentions, maybe.
I like that. Yeah, that aspect of her character is like, this is a valid option for her, is just to end it all type. Yeah, it's a little dark, but yeah.
It was, but like it makes sense, like, you know, and at this point she thinks that the alien is inside of her, so she's like, I will kill you now and just end it quietly and peacefully, which I thought was kind of daring. And we learn a little bit about Winona actually, but before we get there, I do want to talk about one scene. So they get to this impasse where they're like, okay, the only way to get to this escape sequence or escape pod is to like swim through this kitchen and get there. I thought this scene was super cool. This was a cool scene. It looked awesome, like filming underwater. The aliens were in the water looking like sharks. But I will say, I thought that like the one girl that didn't make it, I thought that death was so lame, because I was like, first of all, like right before everybody jumps in, she looks like all frazzled and stuff like that, and it's like, are you going in? Like, what's going on? Like, go. And then she just kind of like, I don't know, it was lame. I thought it was a lame death.
I did like the bubbles, and then it like transition to the next scene. I thought that would look cool.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the whole I thought the whole like scene looked really cool. Like the blue popped off, looked very vibrant, and like man, the way they were swimming like little sharks, like oh, that was great. Although
I expected them to be faster in water. You know?
I was like, how long can you hold your breath for? Dude, I can hold my breath for like maybe 1 minute, maybe. These guys are under there for like 10 minutes. I was like, no way. Come on.
This reminded me of there's a classic disaster movie called The Poseidon Adventure, where a cruise boat or whatever, flips upside down, and one of the climactic parts is they have to like swim under like a part and get to another part, and it reminded me of that a lot, where it's like where I don't know, like thinking about that, like holding your breath that long does scare me.
Yeah, dude, totally. And these guys would have been so dead. But it was actually kind of cool because like the aliens set a huge trap for these guys, where like they knew that they were going to try and get to the other side, and on the I guess surface, like once they made it across, there was like a million face huggers there waiting for them. So it was very cool, like a show of intelligence, like very, very cool.
I like that a lot. Like the aliens like outsmarting them. That was pretty cool.
I was surprised though, like because originally there was that film over top of it, so it's like if these guys would have drowned, then they would have had no hosts for their aliens. So it's like they should have just let them come right out.
Yeah, true. Maybe they didn't need them. They could get by without them.
Yeah, maybe.
They may just kill for fun.
They probably do. Yeah, the predators do. The predators do it as a passage of time.
Right.
Not a passage. A rite of passage. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. They probably they do it to probably pass the time too, but you know what I mean.
Well, it seems like they could like with Brad Dourif, they can just take their corpses and throw them on the pile or whatever, and
yeah, that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
So
well, actually, what we find out at the end of the movie is it seems like maybe they don't. Do they not need face huggers anymore?
That is true. Actually, that is true.
I don't know what they need.
Maybe it's like a slow transition. I don't know, but
it's pretty gnarly. Yeah,
it's pretty gnarly. We're gonna get there in a sec. But so I thought I'm a sucker, and I was just like. So the group gets up, they make their way through all the facehuggers and stuff like that, and they get their way to the door, and they're still lugging around this Dr. Wren guy, this evil scientist, and they also picked up this bloke who has an alien inside of him, and he's got like a couple hours before his chest gets burst, and which seems like the worst idea ever to take him, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like, what are you guys thinking?
Yeah. No way. I think they gave a reason, but I was like, no.
They wanted to freeze him and then somehow take it out, and I was like, you gotta know there's no taking this out. Like, you gotta know that.
Why did any of them care about that either?
I don't. Well, it was Winona that was really passionate about saving him, which I actually love because like there's a scene where Dr. Wren shoots Winona and she falls back into the water, and I was like, oh my god, they killed her. She's dead. This sucks. And she makes it back and kind of saves everybody. And it is revealed, in fact, that Winona is a robot. Although she's not like the typical android that we've seen in the past. Not like any of the other guys, like Bishop, anything like that. She is, in fact, a robot designed by other robots. So there was a certain element of like not like classism, but like she's looked at as a lesser byproduct because she was made by other robots themselves. And like I think that this would have been like I think and still is like super super interesting to explore in the world of aliens. And it almost kind of gave me like Blade Runner vibes actually, because like in 2049 like the replicants are able to kind of start reproducing by themselves. And I don't know. I thought this was like a really cool twist actually, and I totally forgot about it. Totally.
Yeah, I feel like it feels underexplored in the movie or whatever.
It does, yeah.
There are aspects to her character that I do really like though. But like particularly the scenes between her and Ripley
Yeah.
were I thought were really good. But yeah, it feels like actually I don't know. I could have foreseen if the movie was more well received or whatever, like a pretty good movie that would involve the two of them, as a
Yeah.
a two piece movie almost.
I could have even seen, again, if everything had went right for this movie, it kind of felt like they were passing the baton in a way from Ripley
Yeah.
to Winona, because like I think that like how many times are you going to bring Ripley back in these different scenarios, and like I guess they could have kept
Mhm.
on with like the Ripley clone, but like Winona I thought was like a really could have been a viable option to kind of carry that franchise forward. And especially like I really liked it because like and Aliens kind of explored this as well with Bishop, but like she's the most humane by far person
Mhm.
on this ship, and of course she's not human, so there's kind of those existential questions that they kind of have a Ripley and Winona have this conversation about like what it means to be. They don't overtly say like what it means to be human, but like they're more or less talking about that. Ripley's asking her why she cares about everybody and why she's doing what she's doing. And like I think that I'm a sucker for kind of science fictiony AI kind of business, which also, by the way, very Metroid Other M. And yeah, I thought it was super interesting, and it's just super like something that could have been explored more.
Yeah, definitely. Like in terms of like the AI type characters we've seen so far, like approaching that aspect of their character, I feel like it's kind of the most underdeveloped of the four movies we've watched. But like,
Yeah.
it's different in the other ones. Like in the first movie, it's a small facet of the overall plot, but it's a very like effective moment. Whereas like it's not to the later ones. They start kind of making them bigger characters that lean into that stuff, and especially the movies from going forward from here, that becomes I think the main
Yeah,
I think the
really.
main aspect of the series.
Like I think
Kind of
like
interesting.
the yeah, like the shift from like the character that it focuses on, like you do have your kind of heroic characters in this series going forward, but like it really becomes about like the androids and their relation to what is human, what is not, as and I'm really excited to talk about that going forward, which we're not quite there yet, but we'll get there soon. But I thought it's super interesting, and it's something that I think can still be like explored in a more like I don't know, in a better way, because like I feel like a lot of these alien movies have like these kind of under like a lot of them kind of have a subtext of like almost like android rights, or like like what are these androids to people, but it's
Uh-huh.
never the focus of the movies, or never even like a big focus of like this of a subplot. It's just kind of something that's sort of there, so I would love to see that
Yeah.
more going forward, and we kind of do
Yeah.
in Alien
Yeah.
Covenant, but just like really prevalent, I guess.
Yeah, that's the biggest one I can think of. Whereas like yeah, also in Aliens, it's like it's more just sort of a twist on
Yeah.
her expectations, and he just is and, like the cool thing about it is that Bishop is kind of just like one of the crew, and he has his own
Well, even like Alien was kind of
story
a
arc.
like that in Bishop in Aliens was kind of a twist on what we learned about.
Yes.
God, who was the android's name in the first one? Why can't I remember this?
Ash.
Ash. Yes, thank you. A twist on what we learned about Ash, because now we kind of assume that all these androids are like evil and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So, yeah, I would love more of that. I thought it was great. And you know what else is
Yes.
great? So this Dr. Ren guy, this evil dude, he's finally getting his just due here. And he so the guy that has the alien inside him, one of the guys that the pirates actually picked up. So they picked up this guy, and like he was impregnated with an alien. This alien's about to burst out of his chest at any moment. So he starts beating the shit out of Dr. Ren, gets behind him, gives him like a bear hug, and like the alien bursts through both of their chests. I was like, okay, this is
Yeah,
cool.
that was
That's
pretty
the
good.
one
That was a
death
good
that was
one.
good. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like the brain. The brain one was pretty good.
I mean, it was funny, but I can't tell you that I thought it was a good death. It wasn't like
Okay.
wasn't just like oh like
Sure.
so yeah, and also at this point too, so Ripley has fallen she's fallen and went down into, I don't know what that is, but like the inner sanctum where the queen, I almost called her the Queen Metroid, but like the Queen Alien is. Oh my god. So
this is the most
so it's worth mentioning.
Sleaziest.
It's worth mentioning that Ripley 8, the clone Ripley, has certain properties of the aliens, genetics in her, like genetics. So like her blood is acidic, and she has like the genetic memory and stuff like that. But we learn that the aliens also inherited some of Ripley's, not abilities, but like genetics, I guess. So this alien queen has ovaries and is giving birth to an alien, and this is the most gnarly scene in this whole movie.
Yes, and all this explained by Brad Dourif also.
Yeah, who's just hanging there, cocooned up, couldn't be happier to be there. Yeah, this is
so there's
wild.
like it's like the thing of like in all these movies, like Ripley becoming more connected to the aliens and the aliens becoming more connected to her results in it giving birth to a human
alien
hybrid.
Oh,
it's like pale white, right? And it looks like a xenomorph, but like also a skeleton. I actually thought it looked pretty sweet, like in a
think
really
it looked cool,
horrifying, ugly, disgusting way.
The thing,
it's like they're all slimy, but
the thing about it that works is like it looks just like pathetic enough, and I don't say pathetic as in like it doesn't look good, but it's just like it looks like a child that doesn't know what's going on. Like it looks very lost and like very
mama. It should have said mama.
Oh my god.
They have Brad Dourif go like, I think you're its mother or whatever.
So like this thing pops out of the womb of this alien queen, goes towards this alien and rips its face off. So like the alien queen is done. She's dead, and this thing turns around and looks over at Ripley and thinks that it's her mom. I don't know. It thinks Ripley is the mom of this alien baby hybrid thing. And man, and also he bites the head off Brad Dourif, which is great. But but I don't know if this was the intention or not. But man, I immediately was just like, oh, this little guy. And then like he thinks Ripley's his mom, and she starts hightailing it away as fast as she could. And I was like, this poor guy. His mom just ran away. Like, so
maybe they could have saved the little goober.
I don't know, man. So and by the way, so everyone's on the escape ship now. And by the way, I had this thought, but like, you know how in like every Metroid game at the end of the game there's like an escape sequence where like it counts down and everything like that.
Sure.
I was like, you know what the alien equivalent to that is like them getting on the ship to get away, but like the alien is also stowed away on the escape ship. Like it's always there, and I love it.
The classic gimmick. Yeah.
And like I'm seriously just like completely charmed by it because I knew it was coming, and I was just like, yes, here we go.
It's so funny because it's like, why every time?
So the little baby has made it on, and it totally eats the head of Raymond Cruz, which was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it was good.
But dude, oh my god, I don't know if this is the intention of this movie to make me hate Ripley, but at the end of it, so Ripley cuts herself, throws some acid blood on like the little
that was awesome.
The little
Such
window.
A good move.
Oh, so there's like this little hole. It's like an inch big, but like it's the vacuum of space is like sucking everything out of it. And this poor baby xenomorph gets pulled up against it, and like its blood and body start like getting sucked out through this hole, and it's gross and horrifying. And this poor little thing looks so betrayed and devastated, and like Ripley's crying because like it's, oh my god, this is like the most wild scene in this movie. Even more wild, I think, than the actual giving birth part. It's
like guts coming out of the little hole. It's like Yeah, that's why I was thinking that's like one of the best.
Well, I was thinking like
thing.
the human deaths, but that's
Yeah,
the
that
very
was pretty
clearly.
incredible.
Oh my
But
god.
yeah, it's also very sad. It's like crying, and it's
Oh
like almost
man.
sounds like it's speaking English, right?
Mom,
It's like
mom.
help me or something.
Oh,
It sounds like it's pleading for help, and yeah,
I,
it's really sad.
I felt horrible watching this. I was like, Ripley,
But what are you gonna do?
how could you?
You can't keep that thing.
Well,
Can't keep it on anymore.
you're right, but it's just like
Maybe she could
I mean, I'm sure Ripley would have been fine. If she wanted to rule the world, she
have.
probably could have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But although, how is that thing gonna? Does that thing give birth to? Who's gonna? I don't know how the whole xenomorph anatomy works, but
Yeah.
that's the last one. So maybe it could have just been a one-off. I don't know. But yeah, this there's good ways to die and there's bad ways to die, and that was a bad way for that poor little guy to die. Oh my god, my heart was like broken watching this scene, man. I was like, oh my god, this poor thing is being sucked out of like a hole that's like an inch big into space. Terrible.
It really gets you thinking, like, in Aliens, we see that, I mean, maybe it's just an animal instinct, but, like, Ripley goes in, the way she kind of saves the day in that is she knows, like, hey, this thing wants to protect its offspring.
Yeah.
And then in, like, this one, we see that they're, like, intelligent and they're, like, scheming or whatever. And then you kind of feel bad for this guy. You're starting to be like,
Yeah,
I
you're
don't know, it's like,
slowly starting to turn.
are these things like these unkillable like death machines or whatever, or did they have I feel like that's an maybe it's an interesting thing thematically with like the character of Ripley, but it also is
Right.
it's a thing that you don't think about in the first one because it's like part of it is you don't know, but it's like as we
Yeah.
learn more about them and more adds to the like lore of them, it does get a little strange. But I could see them going with that in future movies, but I feel like that's not that's not been an element going forward. Like,
Well, you kind of made the Jurassic Park analogy earlier, where like the newer Jurassic Park movies have kind of like have like the raptors as like good guys, almost like they were able to be trained and like you know what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah.
And it's like I think if this franchise would have continued on that path, maybe it's something similar. Because like I think this movie does kind of get you. It makes you sympathetic towards the alien, or at least it did for me. Because I was like, these guys didn't ask to be picked up on the planet. Like they didn't ask to be experimented
Mhm.
on, and like they didn't ask to be born the way they were. And I think that like the prequels try and almost like reverse engineer that feeling a little bit by showing you like
I think David is trying to do some of that, right? That's
yeah,
the name of the character. Yeah.
yes. So I think they're trying to make you more unsympathetic to the xenomorphs in those movies by showing you kind of the cold creation of them in a way. But certainly
Hmm.
watching this movie, I felt for those xenomorphs and whatever this new xenomorph hybrid was, because I was like, oh man,
It reminded me of, and this probably comes out like a few years later, but the Land of the Dead movie, the one with Johnny Legs and Dennis Hopper,
oh
where like the
yeah,
zombies in that start to like become intelligent, and there's
yeah,
some you kind of like, well, actually that happens in Day of the Dead as well. There's one guy in that, but that whole series where it's like they slowly are developing intelligence. I don't think that's what's happening with the aliens. I feel like they're presenting it as like maybe it is. Maybe they are like slowly getting smarter. But I guess in Aliens, don't they kind of
yeah.
trick them and trap them too?
I think
So
they've always been intelligent.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they get around somehow. I mean, I guess it's through infecting others, but you know,
Yeah, but I don't know. I do think that this movie did take kind of a cool different road in kind of making you empathize with the aliens a little bit more. I'm sure it was intentional, like that last scene. I'm sure that they knew that like the audience was going to empathize with that little guy getting sucked out and blown out. So, it's
I
an
think we've
interesting.
got potential sequel. This sequel could still exist to this with Winona Ryder and Sigourney Weaver, and it should be about them making like first contact with this alien species and like like maybe getting a treaty going or something.
Maybe.
Seems like they can seems
I
like she could develop an emotional connection with them,
I feel like, yeah, if they could, they just need to understand each other. They just need to,
Right, exactly.
come to terms. And like, if the humans would stop messing with these xenomorphs, maybe they could live in some sort of harmony. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, it really is their fault.
Yeah, and I
Maybe
think
they should leave them
I think
alone.
the movies, all four of them, have done a very good job of always establishing that like the real villain is humanity, and like
Yeah,
yeah. And
for
this movie
sure.
was of course no different, but it just again it kind of gives Ripley those shades of gray, and for what it's worth too, we visit Earth for the first time ever in the movie franchise so far, and Earth is Fubard.
It's
And I
horrible. Yeah.
and so the ship that they were all on actually does crash. So we glossed over this, but it has like an emergency retreat function actually. So if anything goes wrong, the ship automatically goes back to Earth. But the problem is that it's just going to crash into Earth, which eventually it does, and the planet is like completely destroyed by this point. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's because of that crash or if it was already kind of like that. I think it was already kind of like that.
I think so. I think that's the idea. Though I guess where are they sending these people from? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe there's other parts of Earth that are better.
Maybe, but
I
Earth
mean, it's a big planet.
Earth looked pretty bad. Looked pretty bad when he got there,
See,
which I think was like fitting actually, because it's like it shows you again humanity is like the real villain because we've killed this one world, our world, and you're almost spreading throughout the galaxy with this horribleness.
I think they're gonna make another Alien movie because it's a big franchise, and I don't. At some point, they're gonna run out of runway of these prequels, so maybe they make a follow up to this, and we get Planet of the Aliens.
I know that there's another Alien movie in the works. Our pal, excuse me, our pal, David Lasby was talking about it the other day, and it's actually supposed to be directed by Fede Alvarez, and Fede Alvarez has done stuff like Evil Dead, Don't Breathe, so it could be kind of cool.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm into that.
see if that takes off.
I could also, you know what? Now that this is such a popular thing, I could see one thing they would do is, yeah, we're just gonna make Alien 3 again. Like we're gonna erase everything except for, like 3 and 4. I could see maybe not the prequels, but I could see them being like, yeah, we're gonna get rid of the like quote unquote bad ones and just bring back Sigourney Weaver because, what else do you do sometimes when you run out of your juice? You just spam what is successful.
I mean, like they could also do. I could see them doing like a sequel to like the Alien 1 and 2 specifically. While they don't necessarily ignore or like they don't not acknowledge what happens in Alien 3 and 4, but like maybe they could do kind of like the Logan Road, like where it's like old Sigourney kind of bringing up a new younger someone. Like that story is a little bit cliche, but like I feel like when it's done right, it really works well. So they could do that too. I don't know, but so yeah, I mean, this is the last ride for. As of right now, it's the last ride for Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, and like even though her character was like a little bit off in this movie, certainly I think like one of the greatest action heroes in the history of cinema. Like,
yeah,
no qualms about that.
Yeah, like Sigourney Weaver can really carry a movie for sure. Like,
yeah,
regardless of like the quality of this, it's like, yeah, she's awesome. And yeah,
and, like she just knew that character like so well, and like so like she was so good at it, and like even when like the script is wonky and there's weird things going, like you still even to me like feeling that Ripley was a bit off in this movie. I almost feel like she was off because Ripley was so like the Ripley that I knew and like Ripley that I loved. Which maybe I was just like, well, this is a clone, so it shouldn't be like that. But either way, it was like she was so like just. Like Ripley is just so in charge, so awesome that she's just like commanding of the screen. So it was a great I can't say it was like the greatest send off for Ripley, but like it was good to see her one last time as Ripley doing her thing, kicking alien butt, and it's a sad farewell to the to one of the greatest action heroes of all time, but it does kind of give us some new opportunities going forward for other different characters to emerge. As we'll talk about David in the next movie, and his kind of growth and arc and stuff like that. And there's not really anybody in AVP that kind of springs to mind as like a great character, but there's some fun moments in that movie.
I think the Predator is the best character in that movie.
Probably, yeah. Well, that movie was written by a predator, so
yes, it's Predator propaganda.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we'll have to go. I guess because we've been more alien based. If we could find a Predator based podcast, maybe we can go kick their ass or something. I don't know.
Maybe we could. I don't know.
We gotta debate them over
You know what?
Alien versus Predator.
You know what we'll do too sometime on Patreon? I'll release. Goo and I did an episode about Prey, actually, which was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Sick movie. I'll release that maybe at some point in the future so you can hear our thoughts about that. It's just to give you a little bit of the Predator perspective as well. So yeah, I don't know, Goo. I guess so. We're at the end of our Ripley journey, and we have two different options here. We could pivot and go the AVP route and kind of, because those are next, like, chronologically. In the
obviously they're not canon or whatever.
No,
but
I still would like to cover them on Alien in Review, or we could keep going with the story, which obviously next will take us to Prometheus. I don't know.
Do I get a vote?
I think that you actually get the pick because I'm good either way.
Okay. I mean we've already covered it, but it's been a while. But I think we should do. Well, we've done both, but we should do AVP again.
Okay. Done.
I kind of want to, because I think we're also sort of not fully, but we've kind of been tracking like the development of the series in a way, and like I see this, whether you like it or dislike it, it's kind of an interesting facet of the series that they actually did this it's like a crossover movie before those were a big thing. I mean, actually, at this period, crossover movies were a big thing. There was your Freddy vs. Jason.
I was gonna say, I remember seeing that in the theater with my dad. I love that movie.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I love it. But we'll cover that someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we should do the AVP movies for sure.
That's done. Okay. Well,
All
then
right.
we return. Sweet. We're taking a break from the main story, but we're going into non-canon land, and we're going to cover AVP. It's a wild movie. I've never seen AVPR either, and
me either. Yeah,
I'm stoked because I've heard that movie is like slimy, skeezy, horrible, like not good at all. So I'm really looking forward to that. Right. Okay, well there it is. Alien in Review, Alien Resurrection. Weird movie, very Metroid Other M, but I think it's worth checking out just to complete the story of Ripley and bring her kind of journey full circle. So check it out. And you can check Goo and I out, by the way. We do all kinds of movie reviews over on Virtual Theater, podcasts about video game movies and the stories that shape them. But, we've also covered a lot of different movies. We've talked about Prometheus and AVP before in kind of short form, so I'm excited to talk about them again in longer form. But man, we do... I can't even tell you the amount of shows and movies and topics that we've covered there. It's staggering. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, check us out. Goo,
please.
Thanks for hanging with me.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun, as always.
Fun. I love doing Alien in Review, and I'm excited for AVP. I actually can't wait to do AVP, so we'll have to get that done soon. All right, well, there it is. Go and check us out over on Twitter. You can check us out over at Omega Metroid Pod, me at Spiteri316, and Goo at Gooey Fame, and follow Virtual Theater X while you're there too. That's obviously our show account where you can get our updates, new episodes, all that kind of stuff. Check out Omega Metroid wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, 5-star reviews would be sweet, and check out OmegaMetroid.com for all of your Metroid needs. If you are stuck in a Metroid game, baby, we got you covered there. Guides, maps, all that good kind of stuff. Check us out, and if you want to take your membership to the next level, consider supporting us over on Patreon. We got a bunch of different bonus shows going on. The Great Metroid Area Ranking is going strong, Goo. I actually upped the ante. I'm going to do 3. Oh. I'm doing 3 areas this month.
Wow.
Well,
what are you finding with your list? What's your...
I was
What are you seeing?
I was finding that I'm still trying to determine exactly what makes an area like stick out and what I value in areas, because like you and I did the one where it was kind of like the two intro areas, and then I had Daniel on with me to do the last two areas, and those were kind of like the gauntlet areas. We did Ridley's Lair from Nestroid, and we did Phase on Mines, and so it was like, well,
Well,
like both of these kind of have like a bunch of different value, but like what do I like better? So it's kind of a cool journey, and I wanted to get 3 in there for next month so that we can really start kind of. I'm going to bring it back down to 2 once we have a longer list, but like just to get them on the board and kind of do that analysis and comparison. It's been really fun actually so far.
okay, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I'm glad it's working. I'm glad it's going good.
it's going great, and that is of course over on our Patreon. So check it out. It's very very fun so far. So yeah. That being said, we're gonna get out of here. If you've never seen or you haven't seen Alien Resurrection in a long time, I'd recommend checking it out. You'll have a good time. You'll have a good time. All right, that's it for us. We will see everybody here next week. Goo, let's get back to Zelda. Ciao.
Oh, please. Bye bye.
Bye.
Screw